What is the best game improvement iron of 2022? I've tested 9 of this year's best models to find out. Irons are your scoring clubs, and really they are key to good approach play, so getting the right model is really important. Game improvement irons are the fastest growing category, with people from single figures all the way up to high double digits putting them in play. Now when it comes to irons, there's a few key things I'm looking at in terms of performance. Extra distance is great. If you hit it further, you can use a shorter club, which means it has more loft and a shorter shaft, which is going to be more consistent, as there is no point having extra distance if you can't control where the ball is going. Now, as usual, I'm going to rank all these products across 5 categories. So I want to know which is the best for looks, feel, distance, forgiveness, and also which is the most draw biased. Now, in terms of looks, my absolute favourite has to be the Taylormade Stealth. I mean, this is such a good looking club. It doesn't really look like a game improvement product. I think they've really stepped it up this year. I really like the simplicity of the colourways, and I also think it sits pretty good behind the golf ball. It's big enough to give you some confidence, but it's not completely too chunky, and it's not really long in terms of blade length, which is definitely something I prefer. After this, I also liked the Titleist T300, and I really liked the way they used kind of 2 shades on the top line to make it look thinner than it was, and I also thought that sat great behind the golf ball. Lastly, I really liked the Dispersion X4. I felt like it had more curves and was just more subtle behind the golf ball. So those are my top 3 there in terms of looks. Feel is always going to be subjective, but I think it's really important in terms of that game improvement club that you get a good response in terms of knowing if you've struck it well or not. It's really going to give you better feedback on learning how to improve your game. Now for me, there was a few standouts here. It may come as no surprise that my favourite was the Mizuno JPX 921 Hot Metal. Shortly after that came the Callaway Rogue ST Max, and then in 3rd place we had the Titleist T300. Distance is becoming more and more important in the game of golf, and we know from the stats, the closer you can get to the hole and the shorter club you're using, the easier your next shot is going to be. So having irons that go longer is really going to benefit you. In my testing, there were 3 clubs that kind of stood out in terms of distance. The longest ball I hit in the test with a 7-iron carried 173.5 yards, and that was with the Titleist T300. But it was actually the Taylormade Stealth that was the longest on average. Then in 2nd place we had the Titleist T300, and in 3rd place the Cobra Ltd X. So if you're looking for a little bit extra distance, all 3 of those are great options. Now, not only did I get more distance with the Taylormade Stealth, I was really impressed with the ball flight. This was super high flying, which means it had a really steep land angle. So although we're getting more distance, it was still really easy to control and get these to stop on the green, which is key for a lot of golfers who don't necessarily get a high enough ball flight. So which irons are best for dispersion? In all honesty, I think this is probably the most important category here, because you're really looking at consistency and what you can hold a green with. Now for me, there were 3 strong favourites here. Obviously the winner was the Ping G425 Max. Consistency is something we've come to just be used to from Ping, and again these were outstanding. What I liked about these is they gave us a really high ball flight, which really helped with that front to back consistency, but also they had the best left to right consistency in the test in terms of dispersion. So really if you're looking for that premium and accuracy, this is a great option. Another thing I really liked about this was it was very neutral down the target line. So if you're not someone who really wants excessive draw or fade bias, this is going to work nicely. Now after that we had the Taylormade Stealth and then the Callaway Rogue ST Max. Both of these were also really good in terms of dispersion, but I would say they had a little bit more right to left help, so perfect if you need to straighten out that slice. Now when it comes to shot shape, the majority of golfers struggle with a slice. So having a club that's draw biased and helps you get that right to left shot shape, or even just straighten out your ball flight, is really going to help your consistency and your overall golf. Now there was a few models that I tested that were really quite prominent in terms of helping with that right to left shot shaping. The best was actually this Wilson launch pad, which is interesting because it's got that hybrid-like structure, so it also really helps in terms of launch and stopping power. Now after that, the Taylormade Stealth was also very draw biased, and so was the Callaway Rogue ST Max. So really great options there if you're trying to straighten out that ball flight and get something a bit straighter and more consistent. This Wilson launchpad also has to get the award for the easiest club to hit. Seriously, if you're looking for something to make the game easy, look no further than this. So which iron is going in my bag? Well, to be honest, a game improvement iron isn't really the kind of thing I would put in play. But let's discuss what option I would pick if I was thinking of making the switch. If we run through my top 3, in third place we would have the Cobra Ltd X. Now, for me, what I really liked about this was the more compact shaping behind the ball, and it gave me a lot of confidence going into the strike. It was also up there in terms of distance. I averaged 163 yards carry with this, which is very good with the 7-iron. I also liked that this was draw bias, because I think for the majority of golfers that's really going to help, and it gave me a really tight dispersion. Next up was the Ping G425. Now over the ball, this does have a longer blade length, which didn't necessarily suit my eye, but it really didn't affect the performance. This was super consistent, both in terms of left to right and front to back dispersion, definitely helped by the height that was added to the shots with this. Also, this is more cambered on the sole, and I really liked the way this helped with my turf interaction, and it also really helped the consistency of that front to back dispersion. So although they placed in third and second, these really wouldn't be going in my bag. So that just leaves me with the Taylormade Stealth, which is the model I would choose to put in play. Now the big thing that was really hard to turn down here was the distance. I averaged 169 yards carry distance with the 7-iron, which was nearly half a club longer than the Ping. And it's just really hard to turn down that amount of distance. These were also more draw bias, which I think suits the large majority of golfers in this category. Now the left to right dispersion was slightly bigger than what we saw with the Pings, but I think the distance kind of makes up for that, and also the front to back dispersion with this was the best in test, thanks to that high ball fly which gave you really great control coming into the greens. So if you're after a game improvement model for 2022, I don't think you need to look much further than this.